Welcome back to the Student Hub Live, making the most of your Access module. This last session deals with reflection, something that if you've been studying any of these modules, you may be quite familiar with. It's something that we can both love and hate, but ultimately there's a quote that we've started this session with, which is, "We do not learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on experience." So it'd be interesting to know your thoughts in the chat. What do you think of some of the activities you've been reflecting on during your work? Is it something that you find useful? Are you doing it in other areas of your life? And have you been sending us more cute pictures of your study buddies? So George and HJ, how's everyone at home?
Well, we're doing really well in the chat. We really enjoyed the last session, really enjoying Y032. We did have some pictures. We've got some pictures from Zoe. She sent in pictures on Millie, her study buddy. She said Millie won't get any bigger than that, so a very tiny puppy to keep her company while studying. And I know Davin sent a picture of his fantastic beard that he's been growing while studying as well. So if we get a chance, we'll show that later today. But going into this session, we've been thinking about the things that we've enjoyed from the Access modules and some of the areas that we thought we would find boring, like law, but actually really interested us. And what we're thinking, a lot of people are saying in the chat, is that Access has been fantastic for them, but we're still a bit nervous about moving on to the full courses and signing up and choosing what degree to do. So we're hoping we can have some reflection on that in this session as well.
Oh, it must be really sad thinking for some students it's nearing an end. Don't worry, you can come back to lots of events, and we've got one on Monday at the Student Hub Live, in fact, so there's plenty more. Right, what do we mean by this word reflection in an academic sense? How do we define it? Any takers?
Well, what we had in your first quotation was, of course, from the great John Dewey, Karen, and I think that's if anyone out there is interested in reflection, I recommend going back and reading John Dewey, but I'll start somewhere else with the great David Bowie, OK? Where are we now, David sang. And I think for me there's something about reflection which is thinking, and thinking quite critically and considering where are we now in our learning journeys. And I think particularly for Access students, there's a really important part, and we embed it into our assessment, don't we, of reflecting on what has our educational experience been like up until now? What were the highs and lows? What worked, what didn't? What were we successful at? What are we worried about? And trying to learn from that experience to really enhance how we then learn on our module and learn as we go through our qualification.
Now, you've mentioned something interesting there, John, because while there are many reflective activities, there are parts of the reflection that are linked to assessment.
Yes.
So why have we done that, and how can you assess this idea of reflection?
If I may, I think for me it's about the extent to which the Access modules can support students to learn how to learn. And that sounds a bit weird, but I think it's really important. We go through our schooling, and often I think we don't really think about ourselves as learners. We're little vessels that get filled with things in school. Knowledge and stuff, yes, as Dickens would say. And I think what we hope for in the higher education experience is to be much more engaged as learners ourselves and to reflect upon, to use the important term again, the best way in which we ourselves learn. And often as adults, it can be very different to how perhaps we thought we learned when we were younger.
OK, so I'd like to invite you all to share with us and the students at home a reflection that you might have had about yourself and something that has really shifted the way that you think about yourself as a learner.
You get better with practice. So I've been learning a long time, and I now have a much better idea of what I'm capable of. And I also know I need to take a lot longer than I ever thought I would in order to produce a piece of work. So I need to cut out 30% of what I write. I overwrite. And I put in a load of fluff before I get into the flow. So
you've learned about your own process. And I like that word better because it doesn't imply that you are best or that you're there. It implies this progressive journey, which I think is great. John, what?
Please.
I was thinking it's something actually picking up what John was doing. And it's an idea of participation. I remember when I was doing one of my modules, I had always been a scientist. I'd always done at school this being filled up, and it's the technical term, it's the acquisition mode of learning. And we learn by what we have, all these things, it is ours, we know it, therefore I know this, it's mine. Whereas when the participatory mode of learning is you're learning from others, you're learning from doing, and you're learning through experience. And and reflection is absolutely crucial on that one, because how do you know whether you learn from experience unless you actually think about what you have done? So what did I achieve? This idea of how can I get better? It's not saying I'm best, it's not saying I'm awful. What have I done well? Great. Keep going with what you've done well, but then actually going, right, I didn't do so well there. Why was it? Was it because I didn't read the question and stuff? And it's this participation in the doing thing. And the reflection was also completely new to me, and I was like, oh, for goodness sake, that's just a waste of time. Why would I want to do that? And then you actually go, actually, no, it is really valuable because it helps you think about what you actually want to do.
Yeah.
And also, Karen, if I may say, I was a very reluctant reflector. So I'm not a scientist, so I should have been in a discipline really when I was comfortable with reflection. I have to say I wasn't, and it took me a long while as a learner to see the benefit of reflection, possibly right through to when I was doing my doctorate actually as a middle-aged man, and then I kind of got it. So I think if you're a student out there and you're a bit worried about reflection, you're a bit worried about what it is, be patient. Go with the flow, and I think you will get there eventually. And what the position I got to was just being more confident about what I could do as a learner and what I needn't do as a learner. And I think that was quite a useful bit of reflection. It just took me 40 years.
Sometimes it's where you do it as well. I mean, I find I can't necessarily reflect when I'm sat in front of books, but I can reflect on a dog walk.
Oh, that's a very good point. Yeah. So carve out your reflection space. Yeah.
And often it just perhaps is mulling over some question or activity or something that's there and thinking, well, how does that make sense to me? Perhaps away from the book as well might be a good idea. So we asked you at home, when I need to reflect on my learning, and we've given you the chance to choose as many options as you like. Relish the chance to stop and think about how I'm getting on. Worry I'm not doing it right. Resent it as I'd rather be learning about the subject. Or do it as I understand it makes me a better learner. Let's see what you said. So we've got quite a split mix here. But in the lead is worry that I'm not doing it right. OK? Although things are changing. But again, I mean, is there a wrong way to reflect?
Sorry, I'm just...
No!
Because I want to pick up what both of you have said. This idea about... You said you have to learn what I can't remember what your words were. You know that you do 30% too much, and you were saying you were a reluctant learner and you came to it late. That is the thing. Unless you actually reflect and actually think about what you are doing well, you can't know yourself to begin with. I know I definitely didn't, and I just used to write as much as I could. Oh yeah, that's fine. You write loads and loads, and then it's going to be great. Well, no, you don't have to. Right? Do you, Anectoria? You don't have to just keep writing. Make sure you're writing what is useful. What's helping you?
So there's something I think, Karen, about being honest and about when you're reflecting on yourself as a learner, but don't be afraid of the warts and all stuff. So recognise that, well, actually, I needn't have done that. You know, that didn't really help. And I think the other thing with reflection, particularly on the Access module, is think about you're reflecting on yourself as a learner to enhance what you do the next time.
Yeah.
So, you know, all the theories about reflection are about kind of cycles of reflection, really. And I think reflection is particularly powerful if you can then think about, so how am I going to do that better the next time?
Yeah. And there's this, you know, I think we often have this natural tendency to beat ourselves up. If we've identified something like I overwrite, for example, then we think I'm going to not do that next time. And then people can often think, I wish I'd known that earlier, or I wish I'd done that earlier. But in actual fact, you not overwriting the next 280 times you're writing still has a value. The 180 times you may have done it beforehand, at least you've stopped at some point. It's about that.
I just edit it out now.
But it's that point, isn't it? That, you know, even though sometimes we reflect and it's a negative thing and we can then sort of be tempted to sort of start beating ourselves up, it's that forward focus that's important.
And it doesn't always have to be negative. Reflect on what you're doing well so that you keep it up. This feed forward idea. And often, I was talking to somebody yesterday who said, oh, well, I only want to know the negative things. Well, yeah, OK, that's fine, but I don't want to just tell you the negative things. I want to reassure you that you have done this well. keep it up. Don't scrap it.
Yeah.
Don't suddenly go, oh, it's okay, I don't have to worry about that. Well,
and I think there's real value in learning what sort of learner you are. I am a great procrastinator, right? And I've learned that that's okay. That's okay because I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, I literally sharpened all my pencils the other evening rather than start a piece of writing that I should have been doing. Now, that's serious, but I knew by the time I'd sharpened all my pencils, I'd have got my thoughts lined up and I could do it.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid. You know, confront in an honest way. If you're that kind of learner, that's okay, as long as it works for you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. OK, but we do have some tasks, and some of our students nearing the end of their modules might have that as part of their end of module TMA, where they, in Y32, for example, we have a learning review, and I think that this is common in some of the other modules as well, where we say to students, right, you started this and you said some of this stuff, and now at the end of it, where are you? But we ask them these questions and we ask them to fill it in, and with the point in mind about students saying, I'm not sure I'm doing it right, what advice can we give to students about that part of that final TMA where there is that reflective component to say, what are you doing? What are you going to do next?
Well, first of all, there isn't a right. So I think the reflection is a kind of process, really. So I think if you're going through it, that's right, you're doing the right thing. So don't think you're searching for necessarily the right way of doing it. But I think for me, it's really that notion of learning being a bit of a journey.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think we've built it into the assessment scheme on Access very well. So right at the start of the module, we get students to reflect. And right at the end of the module, we get students to reflect and assess them on that. And I think that's and all the evidence is that students have a rich source of stories about how their learning has changed, really. Yeah. I think it's improved, but let's just say it's changed, that they can then reflect upon and take that into their next study opportunity, their next bit of their qualification. And that's a really good motivator, I think.
So it's not about students saying, well, I was interested in this and now I'm interested in that, and someone going, wrong. It's about answering that particular question and thinking about where you're at.
Why your interests have changed would be quite helpful as well, and giving some evidence.
Yeah.
You could almost even think about it as if you were going to go back to yourself as you started, what would you like to say as your top tip of, you got this sussed, you didn't get this one quite so well. Great, you worked it out part of the way through. Or, again, we were talking earlier about you don't have to be perfect with the maths element in Y33 particularly. It's about practising. Don't be afraid if you get it wrong, because there are right and wrongs with maths, but it's about practice. It's going to be the same with all of the things. We don't expect you to be utterly perfect to begin with. No, nobody is.
But you've tried and you've met the challenge, so, you know, and that's what studying is about.
Yeah, I think that one other aspect, Karen, which we perhaps haven't brought out, is it's really important to reflect upon the feedback your tutor gives you. And I think that is absolutely part of the learning journey. And bless them all out there. I'll give them a big shout. All of our Access tutors spend an enormous amount of time shaping their feedback to students on all of their assignments. And I think in an ideal world, all students would really reflect upon that feedback, really, you know, forensically investigate, right, what are they saying there? How have I done that wrong? How might I improve that? So that, in a sense, the feedback is feeding forward into their next module, which will be better. And I have to say, most students, that is what happens. But if you're out there, you've just received some feedback, give it some due attention. Spend a bit of time thinking about it and then talk to your tutor about it.
And if you aren't sure about those things, it's really worth clarifying them, isn't it?
It is,
Yeah, absolutely. If your tutor asks, you know, offers to help with something, take them up on it, you know. They're offering because they want to help.
Oh, and they all do, don't they?
Yeah.
OK. George and HJ, how's everyone at home? Any points on reflection?
Well, the point that John just made about the tutor feedback has been one that's loomed large in the chat box here, with students saying how brilliant some of their feedback is from tutors and how it's really helped them reflect when they come to doing their next pieces of assignments. Lots of people saying they reflect when they do the ironing or walking the dog or various other bits and pieces. I should say Paula loves your hair, Isabella. Just want to get that in, important stuff. But a couple of things that I've really loved is Rebecca said that she did some mini reflections after each study session, but it was only relevant when she realised that she had to be honest with herself, and she realised that she'd been working sort of through a filter of what she thought she should be thinking or should be saying, and sort of freeing up from that was really important. But my favourite thing is Debbie, who said that studying this Access module has changed her entire life. It's even helped her sort her health out because it's made her more confident.
Oh, brilliant.
Well done, well done.
And we've had some great reflection on our tutor feedback as well. A lot of people find it helpful before their next assignment to go back and review. So, like I said, my tutor gives brilliant feedback. It's always clear about where I might do better next time. And that's what tutors are there to do, just build us up and give us tips about how we can move on. I absolutely loved my tutors. And I like what Zoe said about reflecting on her life as well. So the skills we pick up from study, we can really put into, like, a lot of the reflection that I did on my modules, some of those methods that they gave me, I used with other stuff as well, like work. So, yeah, I think that's a really good point that Zoe made.
Oh, that's fantastic. Excellent. OK, now some of our students are ending their module, they're doing their final EMTMA, and so I wondered if we could just sort of start rounding up by thinking about what next for Access students and where they might be. And for those of our students on our February presentation, they'll be a long way off, but as I'm sure those on the September ones will testify to, it goes far too quickly.
We had a few comments actually when I was looking at the chat box about students not sure about what they should do, or, you know, a little bit nervous about moving on to level 1. So just to reassure that level 1 also takes it pretty slow. You're not expected to be perfect when you're there, you know, it's very much a journey. And if you've got any queries about what you might want to do next, then the student support teams are there. We've got educational advisors.
They're brilliant, aren't they?
Yeah.
And you can phone them up and they talk you through the various different options and what's involved.
Absolutely. So if you're in a quandary, or, you know, you've got a particular career aim and you're not sure what you should be doing, now's completely the time to get in touch with them.
But John, you've done some research on students at level 1 who've done Access.
I was going to say stats alert, everybody. Well, get ready for this one. So I think I want to say something really framed around the notion of confidence, and students who perhaps will reflect back that when they started as learners, they weren't very confident in their ability to succeed at this level. And we've done, as I said at the start, we've had 24,000 students through on Access, and we've got very clear evidence now that for students who complete their Access module and go on to study at level 1, they are at least 12% more likely to pass their level 1 module. Now, obviously, this is all about the individual and this is all about your engagement with your module and stuff, but I just want to really try and give people a bit of confidence here that if you can get to the end of your Access module, you've done a really good thing. It's an achievement in itself, but because you've learned with the Access tutor how to be a successful distance learning student, you're much more likely to do well then when you start your qualification.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because you know some of the structures, because we have all sorts of language at the OU that we get used to, the EMTMA, TMA, EMA, all these different, the Open Studio, which we were talking about earlier. But you get to know, and you've actually got, the Access students have got a great start, so they're way up ahead of the people that are coming straight in at level 1. So actually, even if you don't know what you need to do, I've had a couple of conversations with some students. Anna Victoria was talking about careers. There's various different careers forums going on, and sometimes they're advertised on Student Home. So have a look if you think you might want to do psychology and counselling. I think there's one of those. There's one something to do with engineering. Have a little look for those. Some modules have preparation sites where you can go to them and they'll give you a little bit of a taster and they'll say, this is the kind of thing you'll study. There might be a moderated forum where there'll be an experienced tutor who can answer your questions. Obviously, they can't tell you what you have to learn or how to do it, but they can give you a bit more of a flavour. That's quite a good thing. But have a look at the different ones and think, OK, well, which bits did I really like when I was studying? Did I really, really like the maths? Did I really, really like the law? There was a great comment earlier, I thought I wasn't going to like the law, but I really liked it. Well, I'd say look for something you like to begin with. There's lots of interdisciplinary things, lots of the level 1 modules are interdisciplinary anyway, but don't go for what you think you have to have, unless there's a very specific reason why you have to do that. Yeah, exactly. But otherwise, look for what you're really interested in, because you're going to spend a lot of time doing it, and you want to be enthusiastic and passionate about it.
And the other thing I'd say, if I may, is that if you talk to level 1 tutors, they will get their list of students and it will say on there, oh, perhaps 3 or 4 of them have done an Access module. They will be delighted because they will have students who, if I can use this awful phrase, oven ready. They're ready as learners. They know how to use the OU ETMA system. They will be quite proactive about ringing their tutor. They will be quite active if there, for example, is a day school in a level 1 module. It will be the people who've done Access who are sticking their hand up and asking questions. So that confidence has been built as a learner.
And most of our students will only really recognise and appreciate that when they get to that first tutorial and on day one when they see how much they've actually learned. That's been a brilliant session, Anna Victoria, John and Isabella. Thank you so much for that. I'd like to take a quick trip to our hot desk before we round off today's programme. HJ and George.
Yeah, so we've just been having a lot of great chat in here, and there's a lot of resources we've been sharing as well on reflection. And just a reminder, sometimes we don't get to everyone's question, or there's something you may think of after, as we always do. So remember, you can always email us, studenthub@open.ac.uk, or our Twitter as well, @StudentHubLive, and we'll be more than happy to get back to you. That's just for anything you want to let us know or discuss. We can help you with that.
Just wanted to finish with one comment from Leslie, which is lovely. I'm just going to read it out. It says, I have found the Access course brilliant for study skills, etc., and feel really much better prepared to start the degree in October.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, thank you. And thank you, HJ and George. And Anna Victoria was also on our hot desk earlier. And thank you so much, everybody at home, for sharing so much, sending in your pictures, sharing tips and ideas, and being so wonderful and supportive of each other. It's been a really fantastic programme, and all of today's discussions will be available on the catch-up very soon, as will many other conversations that we've had about things like studying criminology, the open degree, a lot of essay writing skills and workshops, and all of that is available on the Student Hub Live YouTube channel, so you can go and take a look at that. We've also got a lot of other events coming up. We've got one on Monday, in fact, with the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences about the OU at 50 and lots of stuff about research. So if you've got a bit of time, you're more than welcome to join us for that. And we've also got a session about EMAs and exams on Monday morning. You can find out all about the events that we've got on our Student Hub Live website. And also we've got our email if you do have any specific questions. But from us at the Access team here, thank you so much for watching. We hope you've enjoyed the programme. All the best with your forthcoming studies, and we hope to see you at another event very soon. Bye for now.